Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to part 1 of 3, Increase SAP User Sustainment. We're very pleased to have a concise and educational webinar today. We have our expert speaker, Jan Konn, who's going to be talking about this for about 20 to 25 minutes. With that, let's go to the next slide. Your lines have been muted for the duration of the webinar. You have a chat box that you can slide in and out with an orange arrow. You can ask questions anytime during the web seminar. We'll queue those up and have a short Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Feel free to ask as many questions as you like. We'll try to get to all the questions we possibly can. With that, please allow me to introduce our speaker. Jan is the president of Teksoft Ventures, responsible for the overall direction of the organization and working with clients to develop strategic education programs. With over 22 years of experience working with ERP systems and 17 years in the adult learning area, Jen's had several ERP education projects, including global SAP rollouts for Fortune 500 companies, public sector organizations, and companies in the mid-market space. In addition, she's presented at the American SAP Users Group meetings and various Wellesley Information Services WISPUB seminars. In her spare time, Jan enjoys the sport of pickleball and travels throughout the country participating in competitive tournaments. With that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate the introduction. And folks, thank you for your time here. We're going to start off, and if you have a pen and paper ready, that'd be great. If you don't, what I'd like you to do, and this is, you know, where you feel I'd like you to gauge your total user population with regards to their proficiency using SAP, as well as other enabling business applications. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being, hey, we're knocking it out of the park, 1 saying, doesn't look good, they need some help. Now, if you're on a 5, that must mean you have a pretty good sustainment model working. And what we're going to do today, and again, this is 1 of 3 parts, is we're going to explore the value of user sustainment and how you can sell that value within your organization. Part of selling the value is aligning it with best business practices. We all know we need the organization, we need the organizational change, we need learning content as an enabler, your tools and your technology piece. That tools and technology is almost becoming a wrapper. We can't go anywhere escaping and not bump into technology. Also, we still need the people side or the resources side. We're going to review some measurable research information. So we all know about goal setting, and we all know about, hey, it's got to be measurable. And that's always been a bit of a sticking point here with regards to how do we really measure the training, and how can we support a business case? Well, we're going to support the business case, and you trying to get some allocated or get some budgeted dollars allocated to your program by citing various research organizations, by applying those key metrics, and those key metrics quantifying that business case for you to help sell this within the organization. Okay, and then at the end here, we're going to look at some question and answers as well. Okay, we've got lots of folks here that are probably in the HR arena, education, training, maybe a couple of IT folks on the phone. We know that sustainment, it's intuitive. We have to invest and reinvest in our folks. And, you know, this may be intuitive, but I remember back in the 90s when I first joined SAP, they said, hey, guess what? SAP is an intuitive solution. And I got to tell you something. For something being very intuitive, we're still learning. I know I'm still learning every day because every client uses it differently. The product's very dynamic. But the fact of the matter is SAP isn't intuitive. And when we look at what we want out of our end users, this SAP is mission-critical software. And your users are the enabler to that to reach and exceed your enterprise goals. So we have to reinvest in them. And when we look at sustainment, we have certainly a lot of the improving productivity, et cetera, and other, you know, looking at how we bring on new employees and reducing some of that knowledge that gets diluted out there. So when we start with a sustainment model, we have to look at the planning piece and the organizational change management. And if you rated yourselves as a 1 or a 2, you're not alone. So one of the things that I've seen companies do, and we've worked with organizations, is they benchmark other companies. What are they doing? What are other like organizations doing as it relates to sustainment? So I'll give you an example. One client we did some sustainment with, what they did is their business owners went out and actually visited other organizations. And one of the things they heard is, hey, we need to do more training, we need to make sure our processes are defined, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, you're benchmarking, you're seeing, hey, what's everyone else doing? That again adds some credibility to what you're doing and your current state. And then you look at assessing your current state, building a needs analysis, and hey, where do you want to go? What's our project going to look like? What is our program going to look like? What type of tools and technology and resources are we going to build, and what kind of buy-in are we going to get here as it relates to the organizational change piece? And we all know that when you deliver a message, it's got to be heard. So there's this tool out on the internet as part of creating communications plan. It can be used from an organizational change perspective to get the word out. It also can be used as a learning vehicle. And this particular software, it's free, but you can pay to increase the functionality. It's called BrainShark. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at a BrainShark video. And instead of sending a flat newsletter, instead of sending a 5-line email that says, hey, we've got a new program in place, here's what we're going to do, and this could be used for sustainment as well as anything on the initial implementation for really anything that you want to get the word out for. And this is just an example of a video that was created by a woman from SAP in the business objects area. They're real short.
Hi, my name is Sharon Kamash, and I'm the National Account Manager at SAP Business Objects. We've been using BrainShark to deliver marketing campaigns and messages that are really getting noticed and have been able to cut through the clutter. It's provided us with a way to measure the reach of our channel communication in ways that simply weren't possible before. We've run several BrainShark campaigns ranging from an audience of 5,000 to 15,000 customers. Each of them has always generated a lot of buzz. Using BrainShark for one of the campaigns, we delivered a short 3-minute presentation that allowed the viewers to see and hear our message and to interact with our Excelsius dashboard product right there from their screen. It was within the presentation itself, completely interactive. It provided a wow experience and generated fast response and closed business with the customers very quickly, and it was so fast and easy to create. BrainShark also enables us to deliver important messages to our 700 reseller reps. In the past, we might have sent a lengthy email and maybe attached a PowerPoint file that, let's face it, most people probably didn't read. So not only was that a lot to read and to interpret, but we had no idea who was reading it. With BrainShark, we know exactly who's on board, so my team of account managers can spend their time most productively working with those who are most interested and engaged. With BrainShark, I can reach resellers and customers with greater impact at a lower cost, and the reporting has given us insight that helps us be more productive and drive a lot more revenue. When I need to make sure that my message is heard, I do use BrainShark because it's a valuable part of my communication strategy.
So again, a couple ways that we've used this with clients. We've used this to get the word out that there is a new program, and if we introduce new classes or e-learning type of on-demand learning, what we would do is we'd send this out in an email, and then folks would click on a link. Now that was only 1 minute and 45 seconds, and there was a lot of information in there. The other thing that's really important that she did mention is the fact that there's the tracking vehicle. So this is kind of a YouTube for business and marketing and training, and communications. So let's say you have two plants. You have one in Chicago and you have one in Boston, and you can see that 100 folks actually accessed the video, watched the whole minute and 45 seconds, and yet in Boston they have 200 users and only 20 did that. So you can actually gauge it based on the reporting and the statistics and diagnostics, and you can then send out another email, etc., or you can involve the stakeholders to ensure that folks are actually watching their video. Okay, so again, a great tool, a free tool, and I've also seen folks use it when they've had a new product like YouPerform, the Unsiley YouPerform, to create content. I've seen folks put together a little snippet as it relates to the Brain Shark and send it to everyone. And then I have seen folks also go ahead and, with the communications plan, use it more from an organizational change. So it's a little bit organizational change, and it's a little bit learning. Okay? All right, now, let's go ahead and let's look at one of the best business practices, because to, again, build your business case for your folks, you need to look at how we find our help documents, how we protect our learning assets, and our learning content from an intellectual property standpoint. And if we look at all of the universe and look at all of the exabytes and gigabytes and how we know that information is growing exponentially. So if we look at 2011, it's 10 times what it was in 2006. And actually, it used to be something that was really an IT concern. What's our data storage? How do we store it? How do we organize it? But what's happening, because it's growing so dramatically and exponentially, is that it's changing the fact that many folks must be involved from the business as well as IT as far as it relates to creation, data storage, etc. So the reason I bring this up is if you look at the average worker, knowledge worker, user spends 15 to 35% of their time searching for information with a 50% error rate. The 50% error rate can be, hey, the information was outdated, I couldn't find it, etc. And the fact is, as information keeps growing, we need to make sure it's organized. We need easy access and organization to that. So when we look at three critical components of best practices as it relates to learning content, must be current. How many folks of you have been on projects and there's a document that's 5 months old? We just know it's not up to date. If it's not current, it doesn't matter if it's content rich and helpful. Content rich, when we look at products like YouPerform that some of you have, or the Kaplan product, STT, or we look at Recite or On Demand, there's several different products that are called EPSS solutions, electronic performance support systems. And they have authoring tools as well as your publishing, and the only thing that they do is they record your transaction and put in the house. The content rich, it must apply to the users. And the easy to find, my gosh, that's where your contextual learning comes in, right? So we link up documents to this particular transaction within SAP for some of your EPSS products. Now, for some of you, you say, hey, you know what, we're not a tools company. I know Fortune 500 companies that they invest in tools, they believe in tools, they use them. I know other Fortune 500 companies and work with them where they have absolutely no, they're not a tools organization. So what I'm going to show you is a kind of an alternative to an EPSS solution. And what this is a product that only provides contextual learning. It doesn't provide any authoring environment. Therefore, it's very simple yet elegant. It's very clean, and it runs at a third, a fourth of the cost of some of these EPSS solutions. So what you're thinking is, okay, I'm moving to a sustainment model, and I've got all this stuff out there. I first have to get it organized. I first must make sure it's updated, and we have standards and templates applied. But now I want to make it easy to get to. because I want to reduce the time it takes the average knowledge worker to get the information. I've already got the content. I don't want to reinvest or invest in an EPSS solution and recreate my content. So if I look at this, this is a product, and what it does, again, there's no authoring abilities. So what this is this, we're in a customer master in SAP, and we know there's several tabs and there's several different screens of data. And what we can do is this product, when this is available, we can go ahead and search, and the help pushes out to us. This is just like your other EPSS systems. Now, again, you don't need the servers. It's not resource intensive here. But we've got the support is available. And what's kind of unique about this product is what we can do is we can actually have different sections of the document. So if we looked at an entire customer master record, it might be 15, 20 pages. And actually, I just want to look at what this means, this transportation zone. And it's on this first screen, the address screen. So what I can do is separate my help to only look at the relevant fields for this particular tab. So again, I've seen the 150-page BPPs, business process procedures, and I've seen just a whole lot of too much information is what we're experiencing at the macro level. I've seen it at the micro level as well. And what this does is this pushes the help based on the tab that this particular knowledge worker is in to them directly, and I can go ahead and search very quickly here on a 2-page document instead of, for example, a 20-page document of an entire customer master record. So, this opens up in a separate window just like your other EPSS systems, and this leverages your existing content in a sustainment mode. Okay, and there's other products out there like this as well. And here's an example where you can even put in your field level help. Let's say you have special order types at your organization. Let's say you have a special convention here for the name field within a customer master record. We can go ahead and enter this into the field, and we can put in our own parameters that we have our own convention. So we can actually customize help at the field level as well. Okay, so if I go back to the slides here, we talked a little bit about it must be readily accessible. That gets back to easy to find. And then we also provide that user-friendly access search capabilities, and we track learning content usage. So again, to help build your business case, there's a research group called the Ridge Group, and they have, hey, how many hours a week, a month that a technology worker spends trying to find information, and then we can also get that down to the help level. The contextual learning helps you with that. Also, there are a lot of products like this product that work with almost any IT application. So you can use that as more of an enterprise-wide type of help tool. All right, again, to support your findings, we want to cite, we know about Gardner, IDC, the AMR, et cetera, and we want to cite them and build our business case. So here's an example that for every hour of training is worth 5 hours of increased productivity. So that's a net of 4 hours, and we make assumptions here. Depending on your organization, your average salary is going to change, but again, we look at a salary of $60,000 plus 33% for benefits, and then we're looking at around $40 an hour. So we can start quantifying that within your user constituency, how many users you have, how many hours of training that you're going to provide for them. As you start building the business case, you want to this is where you really need to quantify what you're doing, how you're doing it, and that first one there was each knowledge worker is costed out at about $40 per hour. The salary, $60,000, we talked about that on the last slide, and then the yield of the training or the net productivity. And then the other one that we discussed, and tying again your best business practices in, is your knowledge worker or your users, how much time they spend looking for help. And when you look at folks that are in sustainment mode and early adopters that have been live for 3, 4, 5, 10 years, and you haven't reinvested in your workforce, it might be a bit scary to see how they are using the system, et cetera. So what we have to do is give them the tools, et cetera, to make sure that they know how to use it, know how to use it effectively. Now, I'll give you an example. At one client, a huge public sector client, they're going live with a global big bang in 150 countries, most of which are in developing nations, and most of which English is their second language. And I mean, if you think about it, that's just a huge initiative. And one of the things that we were chartered to do is look at our risk assessment for go live, also look at our risk assessment and how we're going to sustain this after go live. We looked at the amount of risk, the tools, the technology, the organization, and the resources, and then assigned whether we had a high degree of risk 5 or we had a low degree of risk 1, and then what we could do to help mitigate that risk, costed out the options, and then went into the degree of difficulty and the time it takes to do that. And we were able to mitigate a lot of the risk within the go live, but also help build towards a sustainment model. I think many of you remember that the initial ASAP roadmap had 5 different phases. Well, now when you see the ASAP roadmap, you have a sixth phase, and it goes with run. You want to go into sustainment mode, and then process improvement. So again, one of the things that we certainly want to do is enable our users so that they can be as efficient as possible within the usage of not only SAP but other business application solutions. Okay, so some of the things that we talked about, just as a recap, is looking at defining the OCM program, obtaining the critical buy-in. Where are we today? Where do we want to be tomorrow? What's our program framework? Looking at best business practice alignment, and that is so important along with the research metrics, because what I have found is when we've presented, we've worked with about 7 or 8 different sustainment initiatives in the last 3 years, and what I have found is sometimes folks will say, well, you know, that's not a right assumption, and that's okay because it's a number that you're plugging in. So you're going to get a lot better buy-in getting the support from these research organizations, quantifying that, and building this up from the ground, building this from the ground up, and then calculating your ROI. So full disclosure on the assumptions, building your business case, and then finding a couple great coaches in the organization, and then letting them help you sell the value to the organization. Okay, you can purchase slides for $1,998, or you can receive a free copy from contacting Gary Remersma. Alan?
Thank you very much, Jan. Excellent and concise. We do have some questions that have come in, and you're more than welcome to ask a question in your chat box while we're reviewing a few of these. The first question was about the slides, and yes, you can either contact Gary. His email is on the screen. His phone number is also there. Or go to www.teksoft.com, and you'll be able to get additional contact information there. Now, second question. What if you work for an organization that doesn't like to invest in tools? What then?
Yeah, and I would say there's a couple things. It depends on the size of the organization. I would never implement a solution that has 12,000 users without a learning management system to help me deploy that training. If there was 500 users, that's easy. You can manage that on Excel spreadsheets. So you'd start looking at, if we're not a tool company and we don't want to invest, as an example, in the LMS, then your resource is going to increase. You don't have to spend a lot of money on tools. I've worked, again, with organizations in a sustainment mode that have put together a whole program, and then there's other folks that have that bigger budget, and you can still make a difference. Organizing your content, having one single repository for your learning content. Those kind of things make a huge difference. And again, selling it in the organization, using a tool like BrainShark doesn't take you a lot of money to sell that within the organization. A couple of different examples.
Another question, how do you prove a hard dollar ROI to the executive team?
Yep, great question. One of the slides in here was Gartner. Now, if the executives say, well, I don't believe Gartner, then quite frankly, you're probably not working for an organization that supports learning or training or reinvesting in the folks, at least at some degree. So I keep going back to the Gartners, the IDCs. A couple of the statistics I had on the digital universe, great articles from IDC about all this information and how it's becoming not a business issue as well as an IT issue of how we keep it organized. So those kind of leading research organizations will help present your case without you sounding self-serving.
Thank you, and I think I can handle the last question. Several people asked this about, you said it was part 1 of 3. When is part 2 and 3 going to happen? Teksoft Ventures is running monthly webinars, so over the next 2 months we will see additional webinars from them. You will receive an email and additional information if you've attended or registered here. We thank Jan very much for this great presentation. We thank you all for attending today. We hope you all have a great day and come back and enjoy another concise 25 or 30-minute Teksoft Venture web seminar. Jan, thank you, everyone. Have a great day. This web seminar is now ending.